Hi everyone, I'm Jordan from Ethics, a decentralized exchange for useful tokens, and I'm joined today with Pat from DAOstack. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've been researching DAOstack because we list the Gen token on our exchange, and I found out that like the project's really cool, and I'm excited to see like how it's going to develop in the future. And I've been looking at Alchemy and the Genesis DAO so far, and there's a lot that goes into it, but it's like kind of amazing to me to see like what's capable with the DAO like this. So could you tell me a little bit about how DAO Stack works and like how Alchemy and Genesis DAO works like inside of the protocol?
So DAOstack is a full tech stack for the creation of decentralized organizations on the blockchain. The specific blockchain that I'm talking about is the Ethereum blockchain. And sort of the just a high level overview of the stack. The bottommost layer is a Solidity library. It's a modular library of governance elements called Arc. And above that, you have a JavaScript API. And then above that, you have an application layer, and that's where Alchemy sits. And kind of above that, I would say, you have the organizations themselves.
Right.
What is Alchemy? What does Alchemy do? Alchemy is an interface. It's how you see, the funds of the DAO. It's how you see the proposals that have been submitted to the DAO. It's how you see the reputation holders of the DAO. Um, I think it's pretty straightforward. It can do a lot of cool things. It can allocate funds. It can pass proposals. It can adjust users' reputation through proposals. So it's quite skinny right now. It's quite a lean application. But in the future, there's going to be a number of features that are added to this interface, and ultimately the first DApp that is part of the stack.
Awesome. So how does like reputation and ETH and I guess Gen the Gen token, how does that all work within I guess Alchemy?
So we're quite critical of what I call economic governance. And economic governance, I sort of define as a system that can be gamed simply by having a lot of cash. And you look at a lot of governance systems that are being developed, and they are examples of this. And the foremost examples, any system that is decided by a vote of token holders. Because tokens can be purchased. Tokens can ultimately be gamed by having a large economic influence. So what have we done to fix this specific issue? We have created what we call reputation. And reputation cannot be transferred. It is native to a specific Ethereum account or Ethereum address, and it's yours, and it's distinctly yours. So that makes things a little more merit-based when it comes to decision making, which is how decisions should be made.
Right.
Frankly, it should
Yeah.
not be. We have a very good system for economic governance. It's called the stock market.
Right.
So we're trying something else here.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So, when I was looking into reputation, I found that basically right now on the Genesis DAO, everyone has between like 1% and 2% reputation, which is it's quantifiable, but it's not like you said, it's not transferable. And so you gain and lose it based on how you vote. Like if you vote in accordance with uh, the outcome of a proposal, then you get more reputation, and if you don't, then you lose reputation. Uh, and one question I had when I was looking into this was, what's stopping users, or one user or multiple users from somehow getting a majority of the reputation and being able to influence the entire DAO to their liking?
So this is where the entire stack really starts to come into play. This is where you go into the Solidity library, Arc. And what you can do with Arc is you can create these governance elements called schemes and constraints. Now, what are schemes and constraints? They are rules about how the governance works within a DAO. Now, what you're discussing is a very specific issue. It's how do I stop one address from simply taking over the DAO by collecting enough reputation, and that's very easy to fix using Arc. All you would need to do is create a constraint within the DAO, and that constraint would say a single address or a single individual cannot have more than, say, 3% of the vote within the DAO. So that's one example of how this modular library works or could work in the future. Is this constraint currently active within the Genesis DAO? It is not. But I imagine as we continue testing and we continue moving forward with our alpha, we will discover various schemes that should be implemented. One that's being discussed right now and discussed quite heavily by our current testing group is a reputation decay function. So if individuals choose not to participate within the DAO, over time, their reputation begins to degrade.
Great. Yeah, I've seen a few proposals where some people have requested that this address loses, is some of their reputation is taken away because they haven't been participating in the DAO. But do you think like this is gonna? I feel like that's not scalable, so maybe the reputation decay model might be better. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions here in terms of how do you create a framework or a very real coded protocol that enables scalability, or what we like to call super scalability. You can see on a more positive note, maybe not related to reputation activity or negative reputation, you can see through the holographic consensus framework this drive towards super scalability through the Gen token, through the ability to adjust the quorum of proposals from being a absolute majority or requiring 51% of the voting power to being a relative majority. So being settled within 72 hours and ultimately being resolved in a shortened time frame with only a majority of voters. So it doesn't have to be 51%. So I think that's the asterisk when it comes to this idea of economic governance. You can't buy the outcome of a vote, but we've created this prediction game that allows you to purchase quorum and to change the way that a specific proposal works, which enables scalability.
Awesome. I think there's another problem that I saw where I don't think it's really a problem, like, because I'm sure there's a protocol in place for it. But so on Alchemy, you can make proposals. Specifically on Genesis DAO, you can make proposals asking for something, and it seems to me right now that Ethereum is the sort of like the funds for those proposals. So I think there's been like some media engagements that the team has requested funds for from Genesis DAO, and they requested ETH. And I actually created a proposal to like fund writing an article, and I received that ETH, and I'm writing the article, and the ETH was transferred to my wallet, and the thought popped into my head very briefly: what if I just didn't write the article? What if, what's stopping me from not following through on my proposal? What's the
What if you ran with the money? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
What's
the penalty against that?
It's a very good question, and it's popped up again and again in our alpha. And there's a couple of solutions that have been proposed. And there's one that I think is going to be implemented ultimately. But I want to address your first point about ETH being the fund within the treasury, and that's the way that money is being moved around. In the future, we're going to see more tokens added. We're going to see more support. So the treasury will be able to move ETH. It'll be able, this feature was added. It hasn't been implemented yet, but there's DAI support now. If you're familiar with the
Yes.
DAI cryptocurrency, it's a stablecoin by the MakerDAO. And then there's going to be, of course, support for Gen beyond the management budget within the DAO. So there's going to be support across a variety of tokens. The second item we're discussing, accountability. So accountability is a big question. And kind of the solution is being approached in a lot of different ways. The first solution was I actually created a proposal, or architected a proposal to found what I like to dub the first decentralized regulatory agency, called the Accountability Task Force. And I tasked the Accountability Task Force, or ATF, with this question to figure out the answer to it. What is the answer that we've sort of more or less landed on? I believe it is conditional proposals, or it is a proposal where you receive the funds. Pardon me. The funds are transferred to an escrow, so you don't receive the funds. Maybe this could be modified in a way where you receive half the funds when the proposal passes. Maybe have some sort of slider mechanic there, so it's not simply 100% one way or the other. But the funds are placed in an escrow, and then when you've completed your task, you can activate a proposal that is automatically boosted. And the proposal is a simple question. And the question is, did person X complete their task? And if the DAO, through the holographic consensus protocol, votes that yes, you've completed your task, the funds that are in this escrow smart contract are then transferred to you. So this creates a very rigid accountability, actually, because if the DAO decides that you did not complete your task, that's too bad. There could be a mechanic where it stays in escrow and maybe you get a second shot at it. Or maybe the mechanic itself is those funds are just returned and you don't get a second shot. So that's one idea, and I think that's the best idea because it's actually could be coded into Alchemy.
Sure. So what if this is hypothetical, which I thought of a couple solutions to, but within this idea that you've just explained, what if someone's requesting funds to start a project? So instead of them going out and doing something first and then receiving payment for it, what if before all of that they ask for the funds so that they can get the ball rolling on the project?
I think this is where it's important to have choice. I imagine in the future the proposal submission interface is going to be much more complicated. So again, going back to this idea of a slider mechanic, you could have this be you receive 100% of the funds when the proposal is passed. You could have it be 50%. You could have it be 25-75. You could have it be simply after. And I imagine the DAO will develop norms around who can be trusted and who cannot be trusted with funds immediately off the bat. If you're someone who's been around for a long time and you've consistently delivered and you're asking for a large amount of ETH, say 20 ETH or 100 ETH, it very well might be that you should be able to receive funds off the bat because you are a trusted third party or you are a trusted member of the DAO. But if you're someone who's never been on the community Discord, you've never spoken with anyone who is a part of Genesis, then you're obviously not a trusted party, and you probably won't get those funds if you ask them.
Right. Great. So I'm really glad to hear about all the governance policies in place because I was wondering about those and I couldn't really find anything uh, in the research I've done, but I'm glad to hear about that because every DAO, every decentralized organization needs some kind of governance if it's going to be if it's going to keep going, if it's going to be sustainable and be able to scale. So that's great to hear.
Well, more importantly than that, there's going to be 100 flavors of governance. There's going to be 1,000 flavors of governance. So again, this is where Arc, the base layer of the stack, really becomes important because I imagine there to be many DAOs that don't want these particular features. Or there might be DAOs who want to have a very specific feature so that it's sort of a pick and choose buffet, or it's going to be eventually.
Great. Yeah, so I know that the DAOstack can, it's called DAOstack, I think, very appropriately because it can support so many different, DAOs and DApps. So what does the future of DAOstack look like in your opinion?
Well, the short to medium term future is pretty well laid out. We have a 6-month roadmap. It's very detailed. And that roadmap is very much about two things. First, it's about iterating and giving Alchemy a full feature set that makes it production ready for organizations to use. And that feature set involves a lot of things that it doesn't currently have. It involves a social identity feature. For instance, it involves the ability to update contracts. So a DAO would be able to update the contracts of a DApp, and this is what we're working together with Gnosis on for their Dutch X decentralized exchange, and that's very exciting to me because that's when you finally have created an on-chain organization with no centralized point of weakness. When you have a organization that can upgrade itself without requiring a human intermediary. So that's part one of this 6-month roadmap. The second part of it is to begin onboarding real clients. And I hate saying the word real because all clients are real.
Right.
I just think in the blockchain space, we've become so accustomed to what is, ultimately sort of charlatan behavior. And I actually really look up to what your exchange is doing in listing utility tokens with utility.
Right.
It's a rare and wonderful thing. In a way, you're actually kind of a curated registry, if you think about it. You're a very centralized one, but you are a curating usefulness of utility. So we're going after real clients, and kind of in the background right now, there's a lot of back and forth between ourselves and kind of this queue of interested parties that want to create DAOs ultimately. So that's the short to medium term. What does the long term look like? The answer is I don't really know. We do have this vision of creating this ecosystem, creating this future of work that is based on win-win incentive structures, that's based on radically transparent processes, and is in a way very opposed to the current order of how business is done within companies and these top-down hierarchies. If we can build or contribute to a narrative that reverses the power structures of not only how we do business, but how people organize and agree on shared beliefs and do work, good work around these shared beliefs, then I think we've done something kind of amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's great to hear. I DAOs are some of my favorite projects, and as I learn more about yours, I get a lot more excited. I'm excited to see, where this project's going to go in the future. I'm really happy that we list the Gen token on our exchange, and I'd like to thank you for joining me and talking to me today.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us. Thanks for listing us. Shameless plug here to anyone watching. If you are interested in getting involved with the project, please join our Telegram and reach out to an admin about our Pollinators program. This is our program of testers who are currently participating in the Genesis DAO Alpha. We would be delighted to have anyone who is a fan of decentralization or an advocate of this new economy that we're trying to build.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.